So welcome to this eighth lecture on stochastic and neural models for speech recognition. Um, so until now, what we have seen is some models, some parametric models. Some of them capture the dynamic variabilities uh, in the given data, and some will capture the static variabilities in the given data. The examples are for dynamic models, we have seen hidden Markov model, and for static variabilities, we have seen some Gaussian mixture model and so on. And we have seen maximum likelihood and map estimation technique for some of these models. No, we have seen for both ML and map, except for hidden Markov model, we have not seen map, that's all. And where some of the estimation procedure, they are pretty simple and straightforward for some of the models, and for some other models, they are not straightforward. So we have seen hidden variable based estimation, that is expectation maximization procedure. For GMM, what we saw was the latent variable will generate the data, and that latent variable will specify from which of the mixture component did the data come from. And similarly, and we try to construct the Q function, and based on the Q function we maximize the Q function with respect to the parameters, and we did this iteratively and converged to some solution. And similarly, we have seen hidden variable based estimation for hidden Markov model also, where the hidden variables will specify from which state the data sample had come from. And similarly, we have constructed the Q function and iteratively estimated the parameters by maximizing the Q function, and somehow we converge to the solution. So these are the things that we have seen until now, and today what we'll see is how all these systems, how all these models can be put together to construct a full-scale ASR system. Maybe not full-scale, but at least a simple ASR system. And we'll see how both these GMMs and HMM, that is the models which capture the static variabilities and dynamic variabilities, how they can be combined, and how it is relevant for speech. Okay, and moreover, we'll talk about pronunciation modeling, also called as lexicon modeling. When I talk about lexicon, which means pronunciation, and vice versa. And we'll also see what is language modeling, and there are some issues in language modeling, and how to tackle those issues. We'll see some of the techniques, and we'll see one technique actually, and using this will construct a full-scale isolated word recognition system. That's the simplest ASR that one could think of. That is just whatever I have spoken, you just have to recognize what word you have spoken, just a simple word, a single word. And later in the next class will be a guest lecture. So the guest will come and talk about connected word recognition. So that is like I'll give a brief background on what he will talk at the end of this class, and we'll see at that. And finally, so what all this means is we'll be looking at this equation, each and every term of this equation. See, this is one of the most important equation, where you have some 4 density function. This is like this is not a full-scale ASR system. This is a simple ASR system. I have not talked about context modeling and some other issues, tied states and so on. This is a simple monophone model without any state tying or anything. I'll talk about that later after 4 or 5 lectures, but this is what a simple ASR system will be defined. Okay, that is summation over all possible state sequence or all possible phone sequence of the product of these 3 densities. This is nothing but the GMM density for a particular state, uh, and this is nothing but the state sequence density for a given phone, and the third term is nothing but the pronunciation probability of a particular word. So a word, the sequence of phones given a word. Okay, so that's what this pronunciation probability means. And uh, the last term is the language model term. That is, what is the probability of a word or a sequence of word occurring together. So we'll look at each of these terms in detail. Okay, so in when we go for maybe I'll write this term here. Okay, so uh, so this term, if we try to maximize this term with respect to whatever the W of this term, then this is called as recognition. During testing, this is what we do. Okay, when we train an ASR system, and after that we'll be testing it, right? So what we do is we select the word sequence which gives the maximum value, okay, of this term. Okay, so that is what we do during recognition. During training, what we do is we ideally it should be the same term, but should be argmax, okay, of whatever the parameters of P GMM, P HMM, and P pronunciation, and P language model. So whatever the parameters you have in each of these models, and this is you argmax with respect to each of the parameters of this function, then this is called as training. That is to estimate the parameters. Okay, ideally. Okay, but only GMM and HMM are calculated this way. But this the parameters of pronunciation probabilities and the parameters of the language probabilities are calculated separately. They don't get involved in this joint this function which encompasses all four. No, they are not calculated in that way. They are calculated separately. Okay, but this holds true for the GMM and HMM parameters. Okay, so this equation, when we argmax with respect to W, it is recognition. When we argmax with respect to theta, it is the training. And when we take argmax of this with respect to X, then what it is called? What is X? X is nothing but your speech feature vectors. Okay, and you get the sequence of speech feature vectors, the optimal sequence of speech feature vectors for a given word sequence or something. Then what it is called? No, it's called a speech synthesis. You know speech synthesis, right? When you give text, TTS. Okay, so when you give text, that is the word sequence, and you are given its corresponding phone pronunciation, and for that pronunciation you have a particular state sequence, and you pick the you sample the feature vector from that state sequence. So what do you get? You get speech feature vectors. From that you construct the speech. Okay, so this is called a synthesis. Okay, even though this course is on ASR, at the last I'll take one lecture on speech synthesis, which will cover about the GMM, not concatenative. It's just maybe slightly I'll touch upon concatenative speech, but mostly it will be dealing with HMM based, DNN based, LSTM based, and WaveNet based speech synthesis system. Okay, so so the main thing why I explained is the importance of this term. Okay, so this term is very useful. So that's why we'll look into each and every terms in this equation. Okay. Yes.
Because that the language parameters and the pronunciation parameters, they are separately calculated with the, say, the corpus or text corpus or something, that is
Yeah, see, there are ways to calculate. You don't have to calculate this from speech only. See, this pronunciation probability can be estimated or can be derived or something through some knowledge about the language. Okay, you don't have to explicitly calculate it from speech. And similarly, what you calculate about the sequence of words, the probability of this word coming after that word, something like that. So that is what this language model P of W means. That even that need not be calculated explicitly from speech. If you have some text corpus, you can calculate it. But this comes under I don't know. See, there are you can't tell that this is NLP kind of thing. It is language model. That's all. If it's used in NLP, okay, then it is okay. But it's wise not to demarcate this as NLP or speech or anything. It is for the particular task what we intend to do, and if it is useful, just use it. That's all. Okay, so we have already seen. First, we'll look at the first two terms, that is PGMM and PHMM. So we have already seen that HMM is a graphical model. It's a probabilistic graphical model. It has some states, and between the states we have some transitions. Okay, and each transition will have some probability associated with it, and each state will have a density associated with it. Okay, so I have also told that this HMM will capture the temporal variability. That means how when you start the HMM and it will be in one state, and then it goes to the next. It generates a sample, then it goes to the next state, or it stays there itself and generates a next sample, and this goes on forever. Okay, and that will tell you the running a model will tell you how the samples evolve over time. Okay, and typically in speech recognition, each phone is model. Phone is a basic unit of speech, you know that, right? Typically you will have 40 to 50 phones in a language. So each phone will be modeled by a 3-state left to right HMM. Left to right HMM will be something like this. So there will not be a direct connection from here. Sometimes there will be, but if it goes here, then it can't come back. It can either stay there or go to the next state. So this is called as left to right HMM, and when you try to model this, so each and every phone will be modeled by such a HMM. So as I told you, when you pronounce a phone, for example, if I am silent and I am speaking something like that. So you can see that when I am silent and when I am trying to pronounce at that time my vocal tract starts to change. Then when I sustain the vowel, it becomes stable. I mean, you don't change your vocal tract much. Then when I go back to silence again, then there is another transition. Your vocal tract changes again. So you can consider the human speech production process as a 3-stage mechanism for a particular phone. Okay, one is you have a rising transition and a stable transition and a falling transition. Okay, so HMM is an abstract modeling of this sound production mechanism. But see, I have told, okay, there are 3 stages, but ideally speech production is a continuous process. Even you can, while pronouncing the same phone itself, you can change your vocal tract as much as you want, but still pronounce the same sound. But normally in a continuous speech, and when you don't want to fool the system, or just when you speak normally, okay, so this is like a standard way that every human will pronounce. Okay, so this first state will model, okay, how it rises. Okay, and the second state will model how it sustains, and the third state will model how the transition, the falling transition occurs. Yes. No, it's not based on the intensity. It is based on the characteristics of your formants present. Because see, you can consider the entire vocal tract as a some concatenation of open organ pipes. So it's like some tubes, okay, with varying diameters and length. Okay, so the configurations of each thing will vary. So it's not based on maybe intensity also, but because initially you'll have very less intense, okay, then, but mostly, okay, it is on form and structure that you can differentiate sounds or even the intervals in a particular phones, okay.
Mentioned about silence. That's why silence is mainly characterized by the intensity.
Yes, but even there, if you calculate the form and structure of a silence, it will be nothing, right? So uh, even that is a structure, okay. Yeah, okay. So so HMM is nothing but it is just an abstract model for this human sound production mechanism, okay. So and each and every phone is modeled in this way, okay. So if you have 40 phones, for first phone, okay, we'll have one model like this. For second phone, we'll have another model like this. For third phone, we'll have, and so on, okay. So we'll have 40 HMMs for each of the 40 phones, okay. And the parameters of that HMM, I mean the density function for that HMM. So that's what this diagram is like. So we have 40 such HMM, okay, and we have to estimate the parameters of these HMM. So we have this transition, okay, we have this transition, we have this transition, and so on, and we have the initial probability of each state for each of the HMMs, and we have the state density. If we assume this state density to be a Gaussian mixture model, even that for each of the states, then those GMMs also will have some parameters, the mu's, the sigmas, and the omegas, the weights of the mixtures, and the means, and the covariances. So those are parameters of the HMM. So they have to be estimated, right? And for that estimation you need some data, okay. So what data will you give it to the for training, okay. We have now considered, up to now we have considered X to be the data. We don't know what X is, right? So and it is just something from speech, okay. So let's take I'm pronouncing just okay. So you cut that speech and take that portion only, okay, and you feed it to the, for example, let's consider phone 1 to be okay. So HMM for phone. So you give that speech file, you extract feature vectors, MFCC, and so on from that speech file, and estimate the parameters of this. So likewise, I have to pronounce like 100 R's again and again and again and again, okay, and I'll collect from each one of you, okay. You speak 100 times, you speak 100 times, and so on, and I collect all the R's. Let's say I have some 1000 files. So you give the first file, estimate the parameter, second file estimate the parameter, third file estimate the parameter, refine. So every time it gets refined, okay. Now this first HMM will capture the variabilities in okay. And similarly, let's consider this as E, phone 2 as E, okay. I have to do the same procedure. I have to speak E 100 times and ask each one of you to speak 100 times, and I'll have 1000 such files, and I train this. And similarly, whatever the phones I have to speak individually and train each of these HMMs individually, okay. So this is like a okay, a simpler form, okay, to model the HMM parameters, okay. So but I have given the data collection task to some of the people, right? So there I have asked you to record continuous speech. So can't we train such systems for continuous speech? Yeah, we can use. That's why I asked you to collect, right? Okay. So so we'll see about that. Okay. How do we calculate the parameters using continuous speech? So the process is a bit more complicated. So for now, we'll assume that, okay, these HMMs are trained using only the phone data. To we'll talk about the procedure. How do we train from continuous speech later after 4 or 5 lectures? Okay. In detail we'll see, okay. But actually in any kind of speech recognition system, it is actually trained on continuous speech. No one asks you to pronounce each and every phone individually, okay. Okay, so what is this PHMM? PHMM is nothing but it is the density function which models the state, the joint distribution of the state, that is the state sequence itself. Okay, for phone 1. Okay, S given phone 1, and similarly for phone 2 also we'll have PHMM S given phone 2, PHMM S given phone 3, and so on up to PHMM up till the last phone. Okay, so this is nothing but and we have seen about HMMs earlier, right? Whatever the parameters pi and the matrix A which tells the transition probabilities, those are all the parameters of this HMM. Anyway, we have talked in detail about this earlier in the earlier lectures, but I'm just telling, okay, this is what that PHMM means. Okay, and PGMM, what does PGMM mean? PGMM for we have P phones in 3 states, so totally there will be 3 PGMMs, 3 into PGMMs. Let's consider 1 GMM. Okay, it will have, let's say, 4 mixtures. Okay, sorry, 4 components in the mixture. Okay, so the PGMM is nothing but the GMM density function of the data vector x coming from the first state of the first phone, and similarly we have 3 into P such GMMs. So collectively they are called as PGMMs. Okay, so they actually model the static variability in speech. Okay, so what do I mean by static variability? Okay, see, as I told you that human speech production has it's a 3-stage thing. Okay, for a particular phone, okay, we pronounce it in 3 stages. Okay, it can be distinctly divided into 3 stages, but it is not exactly. Okay, even within that interval you will have some variabilities. Okay, even though it is considered to be static, there will still be some variabilities. That's why you might have seen in some lectures where speech is considered to be a quasi-stationary signal. Why is it called quasi-stationary? Because it is not stationary over the entire interval. You speak whatever you want. Okay, your speech is not stationary. That is, its density function at this time will not be same as the density function at this time or something, or its frequency, its frequency content will not be same. But within a certain interval, that is within 20 millisecond interval or something, you will have some periodic structure or some there will be some structure associated with it. But is it exactly periodic? No, it is not, because you'll have some because if it is exactly periodic, you will have a single peak only, or if it is exactly having a particular form and structure, you will have a very precise structure. But actually it is not. Okay, you will have a smooth structure, which means there will be some variabilities within that stationary thing itself. Similarly, even during that transition from the rising state, okay, then some stationary state, then it falls somewhere. Okay, so even here there will be some variabilities, even here there will be some variabilities, and even here there will be some variabilities. Okay, so that is the variability that I am telling. Okay, within the stationary interval, whatever the so within the stationary interval, whatever I wanted to model, that will be modeled by the density function of this state, that is PGMM of whatever the x given S11. Okay, the first phone's first state. And similarly, whatever the variability, that will be modeled by GMM of this. Whatever the variabilities in this portion will be modeled by the GMM in this one. Okay, and the GMM also models something else. Okay, along with whatever this variability, it also models something else. See, age, gender, channel, and your emotional state, and your health condition. See, last week when I pronounced the vowel R, or something. So the speech, I imagine speech to be a single dimensional feature vector. Usually it is not, but actually let's consider, okay, that speech feature vector may vary from some -3 something, okay, then it goes on, and at the rising interval, at the steady state interval, it goes to 4, okay, and it oscillates there, and then it comes back to some 1 or something, okay. So this is my normal pronunciation for the phone A. Now last week I would have pronounced in this way, and this week I got cold, okay, so my voice had changed. So it instead of starting from -3, it might start from -4 or -3.5. So it will start from here, and it may reach up to 6, and it may go up to -1. So even this is a variability, right? Similarly, this is me pronouncing A. Okay. Similarly, if any other girl pronounces, okay, she might start well below mine. Okay, and it will be something like this. So all these variabilities are captured by this GMM, and that is why there are some things like, okay, see, whatever I pronounce will be somewhat closer, and if it's some other girl, okay, her voice will be somewhere far apart from mine, and if she gets fever or if she gets cold, her feature vectors will not come close to mine, but it will stay somewhere around her. Okay, so you can consider this as two modes. Okay, this mode is for me and this mode is for her. Okay, and that is the reason why we prefer GMM, that is mixture of Gaussians, for modeling each of the state density function. Okay. Okay. So and as we talked in detail about GMM in three lectures, 4 lectures back, we know what each and every parameters are and how they are estimated and so on. So that is what that PHGMM means, each state's distribution. Okay, and sometimes, okay, in advanced models where PGMM are replaced by DNNs, they are this is like 1980s, you can tell, okay, but PDNs are like 2000s. Okay, so they are used for modeling this posteriors. For example, let me just explain briefly what how PDNNs are used. So we have 3P such states, right? So we have 3P such states, right? So in case of GMM, what we do is we need to have 3 into P GMMs. Okay, and let's consider it as a 4 mixture. So we have 3 into P into 4 Gaussians. Okay, and each will have its mean, its weights, its covariance, and so on. Okay, and a feature vector coming from a particular GMM is nothing but you just pass, there is a formula, right, summation over omega I into whatever 1 by root 2 pi sigma, that you put that formula and you get that value. That is nothing but your P of x given, let's call it as GMM mixture 1 state, for state 1 the first phone's first mixture. So likewise we have 3P such GMMs. Okay, so this can be easily calculated using that summation, that formula. Okay, and how do we replace this with DNN? In case of DNN, what it does is, you know about DNNs, right? It will have some feature vector. We have to give this feature vector to some layer, input layer, and this is nothing but some affine transform and some non-linearity. Let's call it as Rayleigh or some sigmoid or something, and it will give it to another affine transform, and then again another non-linearity, and so on. At the end, you will have some. So with all these connections and so on, you will have an output layer. of some n nodes. Maybe I'm not drawing a neural network, but anyhow, okay, assume this as a neural network. Okay, some black box, and you have an output layer. Okay, so whatever the value you get at each node, if it has 3p GMMs, then the number of nodes also should be 3p. Okay, so this should be a 3p length output layer. Whatever the value you get, you feed this feature vector and you see the output. Whatever the value you get here is nothing but p of S11 given x, and whatever the value you get here is nothing but the next state p of x given s, the second state of the first form. And similarly, okay, whatever the last one will be p of s p, the third state of last. So that's all right, there are no states like this. So we'll have 3p such nodes. But actually what we wanted was x given s11, and what we got was s11 given x. So how do we convert it? Using Bayes rule. So you take this one p of s and divided by p of x, but actually p of x is not required at all, because it doesn't get involved in the optimization process. So you can just neglect the denominator p of x unless you do some evidence approximation, but usually it is not done. So you can neglect that one, and the p of s can be calculated just by marginalizing this overall x. Okay, so it is a pretty simple thing to convert from here to here. Okay, so that is how the GMMs are replaced by this DNNs. But you have to train the neural network accordingly. Okay, you should tell that, okay, if I give this vector, it is most likely to come from the first state of the first phone. If I give some other vector, then that is more likely to come from that. So you train the DNN accordingly. Okay, so that's how DNNs are used. Okay. We'll talk about this in more detail when we in the second part of this course, where that is on neural models. Okay, so the first lecture of the neural model section will be on DNNs only. I'll tell later in those lectures. Okay, and similarly some more advanced model. So I told you these are 1990s and 80s, and these are 2000s, and this is like 2010, after 2010 what had come. So sometimes people don't estimate HMM parameters and GMM parameters separately. They collectively they combine it together and model it by some neural network which models the sequence directly. Okay, instead of having this states and transitions and so on. The neural network itself will have that feedback loop that models the temporal variabilities within the network itself. So that's why I have written that all these two terms are collapsed together and modeled by and the functionality what it does is directly modeled by a single network by a LSTM. Okay, so in the second part of the second section we'll talk about LSTM a bit more detail. Okay.
Can we say that the left GMM thing does the similarity measure, the generative thing, and DNN does the discriminative measure, like discriminative models?
No, it is not like that. See, both GMM and DNN does the same thing. See, the generative model is nothing but the joint distribution of what you want of the model. Okay. How does GMM model the joint distribution? It doesn't model any joint distribution. So you can't tell that models it. See, you should not get confused with DNN is discriminative and some other model is generative and so on. Even DNNs can be trained in a generative fashion as well as discriminative fashion. Okay. Because see see both DN and GM models the same thing, right? Except you consider this x given s1 and s1 given x are one and the same, okay? Just using base formula we can transfer, but it models the same information, right? So where does discriminative and generative come into picture? HMM is a generative model because it models the joint density of all the state sequence of all the phones given a particular word sequence. That is a generative model, okay? Maybe LSTM in one way you can treat it as a discriminative model, okay? Yes.
Training of HMM
Huh.
for a particular phone.
Hmm.
One phone will have last for say 1 second or something.
Okay.
We get MFCCs for say 40 MFCC vectors will be there.
Okay.
So we have to feed it like all the 40 time and then train the HMM, or is it like
See, 40 feature vectors from a particular file. You have to treat that as a single data point. Okay. The 40 should be considered as a single data point. That should be considered as a single data point. And using the procedure explained in the previous class, that is what the text means. Okay. So that's how you should try. Okay, so we'll discuss about discriminative. I'll talk about that also, the discriminative and generative training and all these things in future lectures. Okay, and so these two terms we have seen. Okay, so GMM and PGMM and PHMM. So the next term is P pronunciation probably. This term, the third term. So that is nothing but it's also called as lexicon model. Okay, and we know that, okay, so to pronounce a word, we pronounce it as a sequence of phones. For example, if I have to pronounce amma, I should tell a first, then first, then after that then after that I have to utter a. Okay, so this should be pronounced in a sequential way. Okay. So this P pronunciation is nothing but it is a mapping from a word to its component phone sequence. How a word can be split into its phone sequence. In case of Indian language, this constructing this P pronunciation is very trivial task. Okay, it is sometimes very deterministic. Okay, because there is one-to-one correspondence between the characters and the phones in most of the Indian language. For example, I have written some 3 words. Okay, you see the character a. The a in all these 3 words in Amar, Akbar, and Abdul, it is pronounced as a only. Amar a, Akbar again a, Abdul again a. Okay, this character, and you see ka also, you put it in any word and see it will be pronounced as ik, ik, ik. It's like that. But if it take English, the same character a. Okay, in the word salt it is pronounced as a. Okay, the same a in ability it is pronounced as a. Okay, in able it's pronounced as a. Okay, so there is no one-to-one correspondence between characters and phones in this in English thing. Okay, so that is why constructing this lexicon model for Indian language is it's a bit simple. And similarly, there is one more thing. Okay, so even the same word will be pronounced by in 2 different forms by people speaking 2 different accents. For example, the word party. Okay, it's pronounced as party in American English and party in British English. And similarly, privacy, that is pronounced as privacy in British English and privacy in by US people. Okay, so even the same word has multiple pronunciation. We don't have such problems for Indian language. The same word Akbar, wherever you go in India, he is called Akbar. Okay, so this is an example, a toy example of the pronunciation model for digit recognition. Okay, if I have to construct a digit recognition from 0 to 10, shunya, ek, do, teen, up to this. Okay, so we'll and we have to construct the lexicon model, that is the pronunciation model for this. Due to the space constraint, I have given only up to 7. Okay, so consider up to W8, W9, and W0 also for shunya. Okay, so ek is always pronounced as a and ik, and similarly do, the sound and o sound, and teen, this is e, elongated vowel. Okay, th, e, and similarly char, panch, che, sat. It is pronounced, for example, the spanch will be pronounced as spanch only. You can't pronounce it as any other way. Okay, and that's why the pronunciation probability is 1 always. Okay, okay, you got it. See, for example, the word one. So what does this lexicon model do? Lexicon model will, for a given word, I want the density. This is the conditional density. So I want this phone sequence. Okay, I wanted to model this for first word. So let's call this first word as ek. Okay, the probability of the sound a and ik, given this word ek, will be 1. Okay, and for the rest of the sequence, okay, you take any other sequence apart from this, will you pronounce this as a? No, you will not. So this is 0. Will you pronounce it as sa or something? No, you won't. So for the rest of the sequence it is 0. Okay, so only for this correct pronunciation it is 1, and for the rest it is 0. And similarly, okay, for the next word, do. So only for the correct pronunciation, which is it is 1. For the other pronunciations, it is 0. Okay, so you should think about this in this way. This will be more clear for English. Okay, for example, the word 0, it will be pronounced as either as 0 or O. Sometimes James Bond 007. So there will be 0 in that, and you pronounce it as O, right? And not everyone pronounce 0 as O. 20% of the population will pronounce it as 0. 80% of the population will pronounce it as 0, and remaining 20 will pronounce it as O. So that is why the probability of this sequence, this phone sequence given this word is 0.8, and this phone sequence given this word is 0.2, and for the rest of the sequence given this word will be 0. Okay, and similarly for 4, British people speak 4, and US accented people speak 4. They'll roll their R's. Okay, so that's why 4. So US is bigger, so 0.7, and UK is smaller, so 0.3. You can just assume that way. Okay, so this is what alternate pronunciation for a particular word is modeled. Okay, so for every alternate pronunciation, you will have an entry for that word with its corresponding probability. If 4 is pronounced as it has, I don't know, one of my friend, okay, used to pronounce 5 as fow, okay, something like that. So in that case, okay, you have to add one more entry to that, and he is only one person, so you'll have 0.0001, and the remaining, the rest of the population in the world will pronounce it as 5. So you should model this lexicon in this way. So any questions regarding this lexicon? No, in English it is very difficult in English. In Hindi it's a bit easier. You see, see, as I told you about those words, Amar or something. So we have the symbol A. So each and every Unicode is there, right? So you take the code point. You see what if it's A, then it's sound A itself. Okay. If it is Ka sound, then sometimes there is something called a shkwa. You have to delete that shkwa. Sometimes you will not, sometimes you have to. It depends upon some consonant rules and all these things. That is the only problem in Hindi, but apart from that it is pretty straightforward. Wherever Ka Unicode comes, it is K sound. Okay. Wherever E Unicode comes, it is E sound only. That's all. There is no other. Sometimes in English it's not like that. S sometimes will be pronounced as S also. Sometimes they'll delete S also. Okay. Because in the word island, okay, you don't hear the sound S, right? So it's like that. No, there is nothing. We have to write a program to generate. Okay. But they pronounce the word in a similar manner, right? It will be there. Variability will be there. So in that case, what you have to do, you have to increase. You have to modify this table again. So you don't have to cater to all the people at once, because if one person is speaking 5 okay, I don't have to have one more entry in this table. So likewise, but if it's a good amount of people mispronouncing the word, then it's better to add one more entry, even though it is wrong. Okay, even though it is unethical for you. If you are a strict I mean you are jingoistic about your language, okay, and then you don't have to. But if you are okay to bend the rules, then add one more wrong entry itself and keep its corresponding pronunciation probability. So that will work out. This is not with the corpus. This should be generated with the knowledge of the language. You should know the language to generate this table. This is generated with the corpus. Okay, so the last term. So P language of W. Okay, this is called as language model. Sometimes people call it as grammar. So in language modeling, what P-lang what it does is, it models the probability of occurrence of a particular word, a single word, in case of isolated word recognition, or the P-lang models a word sequence in case of continuous speech recognition. In case of isolated, it is called as 1 gram language model, 1 gram word level language model. In terms of a word sequence, it is n gram. N can even be 1 in this case also, or 2 or 3, and sometimes people go up to 4 or 5, but they are a bit more complicated. Okay. The thing is, I'll give you a warning. Even though this is widely used even today, okay, this n-gram language models are used in speech recognition widely. They don't capture long-term dependencies. Okay, so to capture such long-term dependencies, there are some models like latent semantic analysis and so on. If time permits, we'll discuss about this later during the course. But this n-gram models generally don't capture long-term dependencies. Okay. But if you have an LSTM, okay, which jointly models this PGMM and PHMM, and if we try to incorporate P-lang also into that LSTM, okay, then it will tend to capture dependencies up to even after 10 words also, 20 words also. and so on. Why n-gram, the n should be limited to 3 or 4 is because of the space constraint. Okay, for example, in a typical speech recognition system, people normally build 1 lakh word system or 2 lakh word system. So you can recognize 2 lakh words. You speak any of the 2 lakh words as a sequence, it will recognize. If it is 1 gram model, it will look something like this. Okay, what is the probability of I occurring? A person speaking I, okay, the word I. Probability of person speaking the word am. Probability of the person speaking the word is. So all these, okay. So let's take, you have 1 lakh words in your vocabulary. So write all those 1 lakh words. Okay, and you count how many words you have to. And typically this is learned from a text corpus. You don't have to learn it from speech. You have to learn it from a text corpus. So in the text corpus, in a huge .txt file, you count how many times I is occurring. Count how many times am is occurring, count how many times this is occurring, and normalize it. You will have something like this. This column should sum to 1. Okay. So as there are something, this actually doesn't, okay, because we have some more entries missing. Okay, so but this should actually sum to 1, every entry in this. Know that these words are pronounced commonly. Okay, I, am, is, are. Okay, but encyclopedia, I don't think anyone would have spoken encyclopedia, the word encyclopedia, in the past 3-4 days or something. And similarly, the word preemptive, even for the past 1 month also you meant that. So that's why it's very, it is very less probable. Okay. So this is what a 1 gram language model means. Okay. In terms of probability, so what this means is, so as I told you, this models this P of W. This W is nothing but the word sequence. Okay, W1, W2 up to WL. So L length sequence. Okay. So what is the joint density of this word occurring? Okay, a person speaking this word, this L words in succession. It is approximated by the product of individual words. Okay, so this is what is, this approximation is called as 1 gram model. Okay, it is a 0th order approximation, 0th order Markovian approximation, which means that it doesn't have any order, they are independent. Okay, so that's why it is called as 1 gram model. Okay, I don't know, that is why, or it is by definition. Okay, but anyhow, so it is independent, and each of the words are can occur independently, and that's why you take the joint as the product of individual, the marginals. Okay. This is 1 gram, this I'll call this as a 1 gram table. Okay. Okay, 1 gram language model is nothing but just a 1 gram table. Okay. This language model can also be a 2 gram model. Okay, the 2 gram model is nothing but 1 gram table and a 2 gram table. Okay, combined together, we have to use them together. So it is approximated by, it is actually a first order approximation. That is a present word. The occurrence of present word is determined only by the past, the immediately past word. Okay, that is the previous word. Okay, so this joint can be split into, it is nothing but the approximation of P of the first word and product of the present word given the previous word. So this approximation is first order Markovian approximation, and this is the left hand table is nothing but will tell you P of W1, W2 and so on, each of the marginals. That is why we need this 1 gram table, and this term P of Wi given I minus 1 is given by this 2 gram table. Okay, this is nothing but how many times you have I in the first okay, you have an the word am, wherever you find am, you see the word before it, how many times it is I, so you count that, and wherever you see is, how many times before is you have the word I. So you count how many times it is. So then after counting, you normally solve this thing. Okay, you will get something like this. Okay, so this will tell you how probable is that this word will follow. This word will follow this word. Okay. So I am okay. Yes, I'm walking. I'm talking. I'm drinking. Something like that. So it is somewhat. It is having some good probability. I is. So there is no grammatically correct sentence having I is. Okay, maybe I is the first letter of the word India. Okay, so that's a proper sentence, right? Some
This table we will make, suppose this is the vocabulary, this is the vocabulary, and we are counting this EW1,
yes.
I by I by. This
Ah.
will be sparse matrix.
It will be sparse matrix.
So what we will do on it so that doesn't mess up our formula.
I'll tell you. Okay. I'll tell you after this. Okay. So let's continue this table. So you will not find a sentence which has the first word as this and the second word as this, because it's a very less sequence. Okay, except for the example which I told. Okay, I is the first letter of the word India. So in that case, okay, it might have occurred 3-4 times in the entire huge text corpus. So that's why its probability is very less. And similarly, is are. Okay, it is also very less likely. Okay, so that's why you have very small probability. And is dog. This is dog. So it is also likely. Okay, so you will have somewhat a higher value than this improbable sentence. And is dogs. No, they are actually are dogs. So that's why our dogs are having more value than is dogs. Okay, because so that is why this captures the grammar in some sense, right? So that's why it is these language models are also called as grammar models. Okay, but again it captures only the short-term dependencies only. Okay, and similarly you construct this table as I mean this is a huge table, so you have to construct this for all possible combinations. Okay, if there are 1 lakh word in the vocabulary, you will have 1 lakh into 1 lakh entries here and 1 lakh entries in this table. In 1 gram table you will have 1 lakh entries, and in 2 gram table you will have 1 lakh cross 1 lakh entries. Okay, so fill all these things together. Okay, so that is what combining these two things. Okay, they are called as 2 gram language model. Okay, and similarly this, if you approximate oh sorry, I had written this and 3 gram tables. It should be 1 gram and 2 gram tables only. Okay, so I will correct it. Okay, so they are called as 2 gram language model, and similarly this can be extended for 3 gram, 4 gram and so on. Okay, so for example, take this sentence. Okay, no sentence ends with because is a conjunction. Okay, so what is the probability of this sequence of words? You are given a huge corpus. Okay, text corpus. I have told you these are the words that you have to recognize. Okay, so 1 lakh words, and you count. Okay, how many times no sentence ends is coming. Okay, in the entire corpus, and sentence ends with. Okay, it is how many times it is coming. Ends with because, how many times it is coming. Then with because how many times it is coming. Then because how many times in the corpus you will find. So the probability of because given because will be 0, right? Because in the entire corpus you will not have find. Actually this sentence was spoken by ex-chief minister of Tamil Nadu in Yale University. Okay, it's a very famous sentence. Okay, so so this leads to a 0 probable sequence of words. Okay, so in that case, what do we do? This term will be 0. So whatever you do maximization, nothing will happen, right? So this problem is handled by something called as smoothing, language model smoothing. Okay, so there are some techniques like absolute discounting, flooring, interpolation, Wittenbell, CADS, Nesserne. So there are some smoothing techniques where you will not have that zero probability. Okay, you will have some either some non-zero value like 0.00001, or you do something like this, whatever I am going to tell. Okay, we'll not deal with all these things. Okay, I'll tell you only the relevant portion, which is this CAD smoothing, which is used widely in the ASRs which are being built right now. So CAD smoothing is nothing but this. Okay, so what we wanted, see, whatever the count which I told you in the last few in the 2 slides back. Okay, the P of W1 given Wi given Wi minus 1. That is, how do you calculate that probability? Just by counting, right? Counting the number of occurrence of that particular word sequence, right? So it is nothing but ML estimation. ML is what? Just counting, averaging. Okay. So let's consider those models as ML models. Okay. So now CAD's model is nothing but some smoothed version of this ML model. How is that smoothing done? Using this formula. Okay. So what does this formula tell? If you can't find the count, if you can't find this word sequence Wi minus 1 and Wi, that is the count of this Wi minus 1 and Wi is 0. That is what this means is, if you can't find this word and this word in the corpus, in the entire corpus, which means the count is 0, then what you do is you approximate this probability by some factor. Okay, alpha Wi minus 1 into the probability of that word alone. Okay, you approximate the second order, the first order Markov probability by the first order, the zeroth order Markov probability with some factor. Okay, so what is this factor called? This factor is called as back of factor or back of probability, sometimes people call it as. Okay, so this back of factor should be multiplied by the zeroth order Markovian smoothed version of that zeroth order Markovian, because it is not ML, it is CADS again. So if you can't find the ML of this one, so P CADS of Wi is nothing but PML of Wi, because it is zeroth order. Okay, so that's why you can use the ML itself as CADS. Okay, but if I am if I am doing third order Markovian, okay, which means if I wanted to calculate Wi given Wi minus 1 and Wi minus 2, then this is nothing but Wi minus 1 into P CADS of Wi given okay. Now in this case it is a bigram. Okay, so you can't approximate it by PML, so you can't do like this. Okay, so what you have to do, if there is no entry in this one, then what you have to do, you have to again take alpha I minus 1 into P CADS of Wi, and then again P CADS of Wi. You will find this word somehow. Okay, so you can approximate, you can take this P CADS as PML itself. Okay, this is like, if you can't find this word sequence, okay, then go to the previous order only. Okay, this is second order. If you can't find this, go to the first order. If you can't find this, go to 0th order. So that's what this backing off means. Okay. This is like if you can't find, but what if you can find such word sequence? Then you should multiply that ML, whatever the value, whatever the average, the count that you get, with some constant discount factor for that word combination. That constant discount factor is usually less than 1. So this technique is called as CAD smoothing. And to find alpha, what we do is, this is a probability density function, right? P of Wi given Wi minus 1. This is a probability density function, right? If you sum this over all possible combinations of Wi, you will get 1, right? So you do that. The first term plus the second term should be equal to 0. Okay. So if you do that, then and set it to 1, then move the terms around and keep only alpha on the left hand side and whatever the terms on the right hand side. So that's how you get alpha, the expression for alpha. Okay. So now in case of CAT's language model, what are the tables? Earlier in ML language model, for example, the 1 gram language model, it's just a single long table. In case of 2 gram language model, it as a word combination, you can think of it as a 2D matrix. In case of 3, discount factor is usually for normalizing. Okay. See, this probability, this combination will never occur, and you have to assign non-zero probability to that, and that non-zero probability is nothing but this. Okay. So if you are assigning, you are taking somewhere and giving it here, and but as for probability, you should normalize it to 1, right? So how do you do that? So you should add discount to that, right? You take something from there and give it here. It's like socialism. Okay. So this thing will alleviate the 0 probable word sequence problem. Okay. So you'll never find 0 probable. So now you can recognize a sentence. No sentence ends with because is a conjunction. Okay. Now I was telling something, I forgot. What was I telling? The table. Yeah. So in case of ML language model, for 1 gram language model, it is nothing but a single table, and for 2 gram ML language model, it is nothing but a matrix, and for a 3 gram language model, ML language model, it is nothing but a 3D array kind of thing. Okay. And a combination of all these things. Okay. In case of CAD smoothing, you will have one more extra entry to that. So in case of 1 gram maximum likelihood language model, it is nothing but the word and its corresponding probability. This is ML. But if we want to have CATs, then what we should do is we should have its corresponding back off factor. That is this alpha value. Okay. So it's nothing but the alpha. Okay. And similarly, if it is 2 gram model, for each of the entry, along with its probability of Wi given Wi minus 1, you should also have its back off value. Okay. So now the CATS model is complete. This is what CATS model is. Okay. You will have one more extra entry apart from this actual entry in ML. Okay. Discount factor, it is usually constant. Okay. It is even that can be estimated by some other way. There is something called as good Turing method. Okay. Even it is similar. It is like it is also one of the, it comes under one of the smoothing techniques only. So using that method, you can estimate the DC factor. So you don't have to explicitly estimate that one. Okay. Okay, so this is what language model is. Okay, so now all the four terms in this equation we have seen. Okay, the first GMM we have, first HMM we have seen, then GMM we have seen, then pronunciation probability, then the language probability. So the language probability, the P-lang will explain how a sentence can be pronounced, and pronunciation probability will tell you how a word can be pronounced, and the PHMM will tell you how a phone can be pronounced, and PGMM will tell you how each interval of the phone can be pronounced. Okay. So finally, this is what during recognition we do. We argmax this term with respect to the word sequence W, and if it is an isolated word, then this will be a single word. If it's a continuous speech recognition, then it will be any possible sequence of words. It can be one word or a two word combination or a three word combination. Any possible combinations of that it can be done. So for all those combinations, you choose the sequence for which that feature vector gives maximum score, and you pick that word to be the optimal, the final decoded word, you can assume. So that's what. So now we'll focus on isolated word recognition. In this case, we'll consider digits. Okay. So we have 10 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 9, and among all these word, okay, for which word, for a given speech, speech feature vector x, sequence of feature vectors x, for which of this word you get this term to be maximum. So you choose that word to be the decoded word. Okay. So, and again, as I told you during training, whatever the phone, the speech files for each of the phone we record, and we train the HM models for each of the phones. And again, the lexical model we have to build, and again the language model. Okay. In this case, okay, as it is an isolated word, the language model is a 1 gram model. Sometimes you can even neglect it. Okay, you can assume that every time you will not, you are more likely to pronounce any word out of this 10 words. Okay, but if it is if you are pronouncing a pin code, okay, in Karnataka, okay, the most likely digit is 5. Okay, if you are pronouncing a mobile number, the most likely digits are 9 and 8. Okay, they occur more often, right, in a mobile phone. So in that way, okay, you can categorize. But in this case, it's a single digit, and I'll ask you to speak anything. So in that case, okay, you'll give equal weightage to all these things. So which means it is no grammar model. So you can even neglect this P-lang W. But if you don't want to, because you are biased towards some digits, okay, I don't like 0. I always want it to be number 1. So you might pronounce 1 more often. Okay, and 5 more often or something. Okay, so you give the weightage accordingly, you construct the 1 gram accordingly, and substitute in this equation, and get the value of this term, and for which of the word it maximizes, you should give that as the final word. So to do this formally, what we have to do is we have to construct a graph and do Viterbi decoding on that graph, and then you have to find the label. So the graph will look like this. Okay, so we have something as starting, okay, and something as end. Okay, so you give the feature vectors, okay, to the HM model for 0. I forgot the arrow marks. Okay, so you can assume the arrow mark pointing towards right. Okay, so it goes like this. Okay, so there will be a HM model for 0, HM model for 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 9. Okay, so all the 10 HM models. So you can speak any of the word. So from here you can go. If you are speaking 0, you are more likely to go here. If you are speaking 2, you are more likely to go through this one. Okay, you by that I mean the speech feature vectors are more likely to get generated from this. Okay. So, but we don't have HMM model for 0, right? I have constructed models for only each of the phones. So what do we do? From the lexicon, the 0 word is split into Z, E, R, O, and so on. And similarly, 1, wa, 1, and similarly 2, and for 3 also we have something like this, and for 9 also we have something like this. So this is how the word model, word level HMM is constructed. You concatenate the HMMs for each of the constituent phones, okay, which will look something like this, okay. So this is HMM model for Z, E, R, O, and so on. So you concatenate everything together. Now this will be the final HMM, okay. Now in this HMM you pass the feature vector and do Viterbi decoding. Viterbi decoding, earlier we have seen, I think last lecture we talked about Viterbi decoding, right? There we have seen a single HMM, a simple HMM, and we did decoding. Here again the things are same, okay. Instead you have a you will have a much bigger lattice and you have to do decoding through decoding on the bigger lattice, okay. There if I had a single HMM we had 3 states. Here we have 1, 2, 3, let's take some 400 states, count the number of states, 400 states are there. So we'll have 400 states and over all possible time sequence. So in that huge lattice you have to do decoding, and whenever it exits this state it should output 0, whenever it exits this one it should output 1, whenever it exits this one it should output 2, and so on. Whenever it exits this one it should output 9, and so on, okay. So this is how an isolated word recognition without grammar will look like, okay. If you wanted to have with grammar, then in this arc you have to weigh this arc using that unigram probability. If you are more likely to pronounce the word 1, then you should have 0.6, okay. And if you are not at all going to pronounce 0, then this arc should be weighed 0, and so on. So that is how you should weigh each of the arcs separately, okay. And this is for isolated digit recognition. What about continuous digit recognition? So the difference between the previous graph and this graph is you have a loop, you see. So now you can continuously pronounce any of these words, okay. So whenever you exit that state, okay, you will come here and again go back, and you can, whenever you pronounce that word, the sequence is more likely to generate from, for example, the word 9 if you are pronouncing, it is more likely to go through the last stage, okay. So this is how you recognize the spoken digits in a continuous manner. If you speak digits, okay, this is how you should recognize. And this is the simplest model, simplest graph you can construct, okay. Even in this there is no grammar, okay, because after pronouncing 9 you can pronounce any of this any of these 10 words, okay. After pronouncing 2 you can pronounce any of these 10 words. If you have to include grammar, then what we should do? So in the next lecture he will talk about how grammar is included in this, okay. And moreover there are some problems in this graph. Functionally yes, it does the job, but structurally can you find some problem? You see this HMM in sorry, n is occurring many times, right? Yes, this one, okay. See, it is this is n HMM, n the phone HMM for phone na, okay. It has some state, it has some transition, and so on. So it is huge, right? Even this will have GMM. So the parameters are, let's take it occupies 4 MB of space or something. And the same 4 MB, the same structure is here also. It is just a replica, and again it's here. Wherever in this graph you find n phone, everywhere you'll have the same HMM. So you should ideally save it as 4 MB only, but you are saving 4 into 3. The 12 MB of space is occupied. Okay. So how do we solve that problem? Okay. So it occupies more space and it also is redundant. That is the problem with this kind of graphical structure. This can be solved again with the graph itself. Okay. But we have to modify the graph in a different way. Okay. So we'll see about that after the next class. We'll talk about something called as finite state transducer. So that is how the components of each and every components, these GMM, HMM, pronunciation, language model, all these components can be represented as a finite state transducer. This is nothing but a graph only. It will look something like that, but it will not be redundant. It occupies less space than the previous graph and so on. So we'll talk about that, and in the next class we'll see on this previous graph, okay, whatever the 1980s and 1970s graph, okay, how grammar can be incorporated, that is the bigram or trigram or unigram, okay, how that can be incorporated, and how Viterbi decoding is done on that graph. And he'll also talk about level decoding, 1 pass, 2 pass decoding and so on. Okay. So then after that we'll discuss about this finite state transducers. Okay.
Previous slide, you told that n and n we are storing separately. We can
No, this is a single graph.
single
Okay.
graph, but like you were telling about space 4 MB here, 4 MB here, though they are same.
Huh.
But it depends on like which phone was before that and which phone was after that. Like we say, that is not the same, right?
Yeah, see, I understand your thing. Okay, see, I just told it as a motivation to fool you. Okay, but yeah, you can save. See, this is a single file. You can create an ID. Okay, this ID is 19. This ID is 19. This ID is 19. So whenever you encounter 19th HMM, go to that file and get the thing accordingly. But even then, when you construct the lattice at that time. Yeah, I think even that you can do. Okay, but even on top of that, there are some problems in this. There will still be some redundancies in this. Okay, so we'll talk about all the redundancies and how do we handle all these things when we talk about finite state transducers. Even in language model, there are some redundancies. Even in this one. Lexicon, there will be redundancies. Even in this HMM, there will be redundancies. And later we'll include some more topic. See this big term, this involving four terms. You can complicate it further. You can add context dependency also in this one. Even there will be some redundancies. Okay. So we'll talk about all those redundancies and how do we reduce the space and the complexity and the size of this graph in more detail. Okay.
If I say 0, if
Hmm.
it enters that 0 HMM,
Ah.
it will come only by that HMM.
Yes, always.
So once it enters, it's like almost confirmed that it is 0.
Yes. But how do when will it enter? See, you should think of it. This is just functional, okay. But what you are doing is decoding, okay. When will it enter? When you do decoding, okay, where it starts. If it starts from S1 of this state, if it is starting there, then yes, it is ending. So whether it enters or not is actually decided by the Viterbi decoding that you do. Only after that you can tell that yes, it had entered, because you can't tell it before a priori. Okay, You have to do the decoding, and then only you can tell, okay, it entered 0 and came out of this, and so on. Any more questions? Okay, the next class, next Saturday will be an open day. So we'll not have class, but I'll decide and tell you the day before the schedule time. Okay, either on Friday or on Sunday it will be. Okay, or it might be late, like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Saturday. We'll see. Okay, I'll tell you one day before. Okay. Okay. Thank you.